Okay, it's Top of the Pops reaction time again. This episode is from the 28th of February 1997. And for some reason, Ian Wright, the footballer who did a little bit of rapping and obviously TV presenting, is hosting this edition. I'll kick it off with the Bee Gees. So yeah, this is the newest, as in the latest episode of Top of the Pops that I've reacted to so far. 1997, at this point I would have been 16 years old, a few months off my 17th birthday. I was starting to collect a lot more music around this point, before this point really, from I'd say the end of 1995 into early 1996, when it was when I got my first compact disc player, and I'd bought a few tapes over the years, but once I'd got a CD player of my own, that's when I started ramping up buying, especially CD singles. So this is Alone by the Bee Gees. I'm not sure I've ever heard this. I probably have done. I know I wasn't listening to the top 40 all that often by this point, even though I was listening to a lot more music. I was actually buying music rather than just listening to it off the radio. This is alright, average, I think. Yeah, it's not really pitching my tent, as it were, but there's nothing inherently wrong with it either. In a previous episode of this TOTP reaction series, it featured the Bee Gees' last #1 hit, You Win Again, which is one of my favourite singles of all time. That is a bloody marvellous song. This Alone isn't a patch on it, but it's fine. I'm sure this pleased numerous Bee Gees fans. I believe Abigail Barry, BBW, shout out to Queen Ethelbert, she's a Bee Gees fan. In fact, she said she was at the last concert the Bee Gees did, presumably in the UK, before, well, they didn't split up, did they? Because like one of the brothers died, and was it Morris who died first? And then Robin died a few years later, so she was at the last Bee Gees concert in this country. So I'll be interested to see how this format of Top of the Pops goes. In 1997, as you can see, it's got quite a sort of minimalist logo. You know, Britpop, I think, had kind of peaked around this point.
We've got the man I worship in the house, the artist. We've got the Spice Girls ripping it up. But here, making their Top of the Pops debut, we got Republica.
Yeah, number 13, it's Republica, ready to go. You heard this a lot. This was one of those hits that local radio would just play like once an hour, seemingly. Like if you're in like a hairdresser's or in a taxi or something, or on your school bus or whatever, and the driver had the radio on, like you hear this pretty much like guaranteed, like at least a couple of times a day, if not more. And then this song, Ready to Go, continued to have some life, as I know it was used by Sky Sports for their Premier League coverage or some sort of football coverage for a lot of years. They may still use it sometimes now, and like 20 odd years later. I don't mind this. I think I didn't really like it back then, simply because I felt it was just overplayed. But if it was something I was really keen on, it probably wouldn't bother me if something was overplayed. So it's, you know, what do you do? Sounds like she's singing live. What's her name? Saffron, I think. I believe that's her name, Saffron, the lead singer of Republica. Sounds like the instrumental track, the backing track, is pre-recorded, but she's singing live. I could be wrong. I could be right, as a certain Mr. John Lydon would say. So this is the first reaction that has appeared on my YouTube channel for Top of the Pops in about a month. I'm still trying to do these approximately once a month, but you know, there was a couple in January that I did. as one was very early January and another one was late, and then maybe we'll try and get back to a monthly schedule. But if you would like to see more, then I'm happy to do more. As I mentioned in the last one, I do record these quite well ahead in time. So if I look different or sound, I don't know why I'd sound different, but you never know. That'll be why. Perhaps my hair has grown when you're seeing this on 28th of February or whenever you choose to watch this. That was blinding. Thank you for that, Ian Wright. I don't think he's reading off an auto cue. So. Alright, Sash now at number 2. It's in the top 10 in Italy, and he's from Germany, apparently. I would have assumed Sash was maybe Dutch or Belgian. I don't know why. I mean, the natural assumption for encore and foie would be that he's French, but that's, you know, the title and the vocals are French, but that doesn't mean he's German. I don't, you know, I'm taking Top of the Pops by their word. It was a few months after this, I think April '97, I started work on college radio. And although I didn't have this single, this was one of the tracks on a compilation that we always used at the radio station, and it was very popular, so it got requested a lot. So we heard this quite a lot. I liked it. I think Sasha's done better than this personally, but this was his first hit, or certainly his first hit in the UK. He may have had other hits prior to this in Europe. And of course this was around the time of the big trance explosion as well, which I would say that kicked off early in 1996 with the excellent Children by Robert Miles. That, I think, that was probably the first really big trance single, and I don't think it's been bettered really. I think everything else has been kind of, you know, a little bit disappointing really. So trance, yeah, I can pick and choose a couple in the genre that I really like, but generally there's other dance music I prefer. Well, my tastes are pretty eclectic, and like I say, this is good enough. It's certainly I think the best track that's been on this episode so far. Oh, excellent. Now, this is a very good track. This has been remixed numerous times. It's been covered numerous times. I think the most famous cover of You've Got the Love in more recent years has been Florence and the Machine, which I don't think was anywhere as good as this. But this 97 mix, I think, the original Source and Candy Staten version, I think, was from around 91-ish, maybe. I'll put some stuff up on screen. Oh, we're seeing the charts. Yeah, they're just listing the charts over this promo video, which is fair enough. Let's see if there's anything interesting. Oh, Jay-Z's in there, look. A very young Jay-Z. Novocaine for the Soul, I had that. That was a great track. Yeah, a lot of stuff here that I kind of vaguely remember. Oh, there's the Spice Girls. We'll be seeing them. I think they're Your Woman, White Town. One-hit wonder, but very good. As Yet. Ain't Nobody by LL Cool J. That was a pretty cool cover. Kind of a cover, anyway. Ain't Talk About Dub. I had that single. Love that. That's brilliant. She's a Star. Another good track from James. Let Me In, I think I remember that. Discotheque by U2 was not bad, not one of their best. Daft Punk, there, look. So there's a few acts here that are still doing the rounds and they're pretty big, if not bigger today, like Daft Punk, Jay-Z. They're all massive. And was that Kathy Dennis at number 11 with Waterloo Sunset? I didn't realise Kathy Dennis was still having hits of her own this late. I know she's written a lot for other people. But this is a great mix of You Got the Love. Probably my favourite out of the various ones that I've heard over, God, the last 25 years or more. Probably getting over 30 years. Just a fantastic drum beat behind that. I'm not rating Ian Wright as a presenter, but you know, he was still playing football at this point, wasn't he? Yeah, probably near the end of his career. Oh, here's Kathy Dennis. The cover of Waterloo Sunset, that was originally by the Kinks from 1960 something. Got a feeling it was mid to late 60s. This is nice enough. I know the episode of Top of the Pops I did a commentary for, which was from November in 1992. It was just riddled with cover versions, and most of them bad ones as well. But this is pleasant enough. Kathy Dennis is, like, for me, she's more early 90s than this kind of mid to late 90s. Nice to see her, you know, having a hit a few years after I thought she'd kind of stopped really. Well, I didn't think she'd stopped recording herself, but I just figured she was focusing more on her work with other people and her writing and whatever. But obviously not. I know she's written some big stuff. I can't think of anything offhand. Maybe if there's a really big hit that she's penned, I'll put it on screen. This is probably the first really sort of guitar-y, maybe post-Britpop type thing that's been on. It's got kind of a pop sheen to it. Like I say, I think at this point, Britpop, really, it had peaked probably this year, really. I suppose we're only a couple of months or so away from Oasis's Be Here Now album coming out. Well, maybe a few months actually, because I think that might have been summer of '97, I think. And although it was massively hyped at the time, Be Here Now, a lot of people just hated it when it came out. I think it's alright. I think it's a good album. In a minority, I know. And there's probably hardcore Oasis fans, and I am an Oasis fan, not a hardcore one, but who I know like it. But generally the critics hated it, but it sold a ton. Oh, so here's something certainly guitar-y. This is more sort of, if that was post-Britpop, this is post-grunge. I'm going to stop saying post all the time. My name isn't Pat. That's a bad joke. Bush, I was never that bothered. Gavin Rosswell, that's his name, isn't it? I think. Listen, if you listen to his voice, he wants to be Kurt Cobain, doesn't he? Like, you know, what, 3 years after Kurt Cobain stuck a gun in his mouth. Bush seemed to be coming a bit late to the grunge party, this kind of Seattle sound, or whatever you want to call it. I think this was their only hit that ever really did anything in the UK. I think they were much bigger in America, understandably. I mean, they sound an American band, even though they're not. Gavin Rosswell, he was married to Gwen Stefani for many years. I believe they split up a few years ago, though. And he also had a relationship with Boy George when he was younger as well. I've seen a couple of Boy George anecdotes where he's had relationships with men, and these men have gone on to like lead 100% heterosexual lives afterwards, to the best of our knowledge. I mean, you never know what someone's doing in their private life. This is really getting off on a tangent, but I'm just talking over this because I don't rate this. I think this is kind of derivative. It's sort of karaoke grunge. It seems a bit late for them to kind of have a hit with this. If this had come out in sort of 92, 93, maybe even 94, it might have resonated a bit more. But in 97, when you'd had like Blur and Oasis and Pulp and Sleeper and just all the British bands really, you know, catching fire, to have this albeit UK band but with a real kind of American sound to them, you know, attempt this kind of thing, I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me somehow. I can't explain it. So I might as well go back to talking about all the men Boy George has slept with. Oh, it's Prince, I believe. Yep. Or the artist, formerly known as Prince, or just the artist, or Symbol, as he was known. So what was this? An exclusive performance, so this isn't something that's in the chart. This is Holy River. I don't know if this was released as a single. Does sound like he's singing live. I think his band may be playing live, but I couldn't swear to it. So have I heard this before? I don't know. Possibly, but it's not ringing any bells. But so far, so pleasant. I'd say so far this episode of TOTP has been above average. Nothing's really kind of got me pumped up. There's been nothing yet that I've really been excited about, but this has been decent enough. Porsche, I don't know, just something about them annoys me. Republica, still don't like it that much after all these years, but it's not bad. BG's was a bit bland. Sash was okay, but not the best in that genre either. So Prince would have been the artist for, probably about 4 or 5 years by now. It was a gesture of defiance, I believe, to his record label, which would have been Warner Brothers, I think. He said his recording contract was tantamount to slavery, which always felt a bit of an overreaction to me, even when I was younger and I first heard him say that. Or saw the statement of it. Because I do remember that clip. It might have been an MTV thing, but it's been repeated numerous places, where him and one of his female entourage, probably a girlfriend of the time or something, he did an interview and he was like sort of covered in head to toe in like a kind of weird sort of hood type shroud type thing. And every time the interviewer asked him a question, he would sort of quite dramatically whisper to his lady friend, and then she'd answer for him. So he was doing this sort of weird performance art, I'm not speaking to the media kind of deal, but you know, he still turned up for an interview, albeit you couldn't see his face and you couldn't hear his voice. Good old Prince, or artist. Look at that, that's a cool guitar, you've got to admit. And it's in the shape of his symbol, isn't it, that? Can you imagine how much that guitar would fetch in an auction? It may have been auctioned for all I know. I bet someone would pay an absolute fortune for that, if they haven't already. Oh, here we go. Well, you wanted the biggest band in the world, you've got them, or the biggest group in the world. Calling the Spice Girls a band is a little bit of a stretch in it. To me, band implies you play instruments. So this is Mama, and I like this. This is probably going to be my favourite track of the episode, I would have thought. I think this is just a nice kind of slightly, you know, it's sort of straddling between ballad and sort of up-tempo, really, isn't it? This was released as a double A-side single with Who Do You Think You Are. It was the comic relief single of this year as well. I remember having this single. They're a little guilty pleasure of mine, Spice Girls. I've got their 3 albums on mini-disc. Not so much because I think they're brilliant albums, but just because they're quite collectible, Spice Girls on mini-disc. Emma Bunton there. There, of course, is Mel B, Melanie Brown, aka Scary Spice. She once appeared in an episode of Coronation Street, filling in for an actress who had unexpectedly quit. There's Posh Spice, Victoria Adams, as she would have been then, nearly called her Victoria Beckham. I can't be dealing with her now. Like, when David Beckham goes for a cuddle with her, it must be like hugging a bloody coat hanger. And I think she always had the weakest voice out of the 5 as well. I don't think she got many, if any, of the solo bits in the Spice Girls records. But, well, I doubt she'd even consider herself a singer now, would she? She's a fashion designer and fashion icon and just miserable as sin. Well, I don't know, maybe she's quite a laugh in person if you meet her. I wouldn't have thought so. She looks like someone, and she only goes for a shit once every 4 years. It coincides with the Olympics. There, of course, is Sporty Spice, Mel C. This would have been how long before Jerry Ginger Spice left? About a year, I think. Maybe a bit over a year, and then she left. One of my favourite Spice Girls singles. There's nothing unpleasant about this, and it was for charity as well when this came out originally, so you cannot complain, can you? Well, you can if you want. Ah, here we go, the top 10.
The day we find love, 911. 9, Blue Boy, remember me.
That was alright.
8, I Shot the Sheriff.
Hey, that's pretty good.
7, Bush.
Yeah.
6, Don't Let Go. On Vogue. 5, Bee Gees. Alone. 4, Where Do You Go? No
Yeah,
Mercy.
I like that. I think that's a great pop song. Where do you go?
Soul Speak,
Oh,
Daddy
nice.
2, Encore Fois. Sash.
Right, what's number 1?
Can you believe it? A 1997 record. 2 weeks at
Oh,
number 1. Which
second
only
week at number
means
1.
That No Doubt are still top of the
Ah, how funny, I only mentioned Gwen Stefani earlier on. I wonder if that's where they met on this episode of Top of the Pops. Gavin and Stacey. No, not Gavin Stacey. Gavin and Gwen. Gavin and Stacey. So this was No Doubt's breakthrough hit in the UK, and I think in the US as well. Since then, they've been on and off a pretty big band over the years. I don't know if they've released an album in some time, maybe 5 years or so, as obviously Gwen Stefani's had a solo career that I think she's been focusing on more. I know I wasn't that bothered about Don't Speak when I first heard it, and I'm still, it's not bad, but it's never grown on me much. I've said that about a lot of stuff in this. It's like, it's alright, but, you know, I wouldn't thank you for it. When I did more sort of looking into No Doubt and other acts of the period, back then, I sort of, you know, found out more about these acts, and I was interested that No Doubt were more of a, they were kind of like a ska punk band almost, albeit, you know, not sort of leaning too heavy on the punk, but, you know, leaning fairly heavy on the ska. Whereas this is kind of, this sounds like something that you'd get on an episode of Dawson's Creek or something, isn't it? It's like just kind of radio-friendly American pop rock. And it's not a bad song, it's just not something I'd choose to listen to. Who are they predicting top 40 entries for? Cooler Shaker, Eternal, Peter Andre, Foxy Brown featuring Blackstreet. Okay. Quite easy to predict, really, when if Top of the Pops goes out on a Thursday and then your chart is on Sunday, even with like any last-minute editing, like you've got your midweek chart, which I think at that point would have come out on a Wednesday. To predict is, it's not really proper predictions, it's cheating. Whatever. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Top of the Pops. If you have, let me know in the comments. And obviously I will do another one in March. I'm not sure what year yet, but hopefully it will be a good one. Oh, and there we are. It's ended with simple cut-off. Probably at the right time, as well as Ian Wright was starting to get on my tits. Anyway, that's going to be it from me. Thank you all for watching. Join me again next month for the next Top of the Pops reaction. And thank you all, my subscribers and Patreons. Cheers, everyone. See ya!